Basil, I don't need to tell you there's a big difference between doing a podcast and sitting down, across from a 60 Minutes interviewer or in front of a press conference, which is something that she isn't doing, or at least we don't see that she's planning to do. So this past week, I've talked to half a dozen people who are political insiders, and I asked them all the question, how many undecided voters do you think there really are? And their answers range from 0.5% to 7%. That's all we're talking about here. Like, really, right? I think if you've got your people, they're going out.
Right.
So are you worried, as some Democrats are, she's not putting herself out there in the right ways? I don't think anybody's saying she's sitting at home, watching soap operas and eating bonbons. But is she doing what she needs to do?
Yeah, I go back to the statements that Michelle Obama made at the DNC, where she actually previewed this sentiment, where she said, look, if you don't get a call, if the campaign doesn't exactly touch you, and if you don't hear exactly what you want her to say, rest assured she's doing the work and the campaign is doing the work, and you have a clear choice between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. One is looking backward, the other is looking forward to improve your lives. She said that. There was a lot of applause. Everybody agreed that that was sort of the right statement and the right sentiment. When she took Donald Trump to task on the debate stage, everybody talked about how brilliant she was. So how are we turned around in such a short period of time afterwards to suggest that she's not doing enough and she's not saying the right things? She's been doing this for 2-3 months now. She didn't have a year. She didn't have 2 years. So she's got to do a lot in a very short period of time. And I feel that, look, if she doesn't do traditional media, those undecided voters, having, anybody that does campaigns understands, when you do podcasts, when you do a lot of digital media, you can go hyper local and be super targeted in that approach. And if you want to have that conversation with undecided voters, in many ways, that's the best way to do it. So I understand the concern and the need and desire to want to see her in these major platforms. But, you have to imagine that the campaign knows where those voters are and knows how to talk to them.
Well, Michael, I had our crack staff look back at the last 4 presidents, going back to George W. Their campaigns lasted on average 553 days. So far, Kamala Harris has had just 75, and we do continue to hear from voters, I hear it, saying they don't know enough about her. Endorsements are great, but there's also, as Basil was just saying, there's that connection that you have to make with voters, whether it's on an issue, whether it's on a personal basis. Do you see her doing what she needs to do? Is she being smart about not a lot of time left, 32 days?
Yes, 1,000 times yes.
So you think this is just Democrats being Democrats?
It's Democrats being Democrats, and it's the mainstream media being the mainstream media. They want to be cuddled. They want to show that they got the connection, they got the end. The New York Times, Washington Post, they want to sit down. The major networks want to sit down. 60 Minutes, give us your time.
Everybody wants to sit down, but do you think there's a difference between a sit down and I'm not saying that 60 Minutes isn't going to do a great job. I've been watching that show for 60 years.
They will do a great job.
They'll do a great job, but why not do a press conference, for example? I'm not saying that as I'm not asking that question as a journalist.
If I can do. No, let me just get to this point.
Yeah.
If I can get in a local media market in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, North Carolina, anywhere in the country, I don't need to do a press conference. I'm talking directly to people as they're driving home in their car on their car radio, or if I'm sitting in their living rooms. If I've done an interview with the local late night news or whatever, we have to stop looking at this campaign through the traditional lenses. This is not that race. This 107 days she's been doing this, and she's got 30 more left. So at the end of the day, you're talking 140 days to run a national presidential campaign. She's got to be particular with her targets. If she had an extra 400 days, everybody would get touched in the mainstream media and in the Democratic Party. This is not the Hillary campaign of 2016. This is not Joe Biden's campaign of 2020. So I think she's doing what she needs to do now. There are some components of this that she absolutely needs to focus a little bit more time on. Certainly among younger voters, African-American voters in particular, and they are starting to do that. their ground game operation, their organization, and networking across the states, particularly the battleground states, are in place. Donald Trump doesn't have any of that. I don't see Donald Trump doing sit downs and press conferences with the mainstream media every week. So let's hold her to the same standard we're holding Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is not giving you anything except a rally in which he dribbles and nods off and just goes off on tangents. And the press accepts that. And yet they look at her and saying, well, how come you're not giving us more of what we want? Well, as soon as you get it from Donald Trump, she'll give it to you. In the meantime, I think she's focused where she needs to be. And the Democrats need to stop acting like Democrats, get you behind on the ground, organize, turn out your vote. You need to overwhelm the ballot box on November 5th, because that's the end game. And don't worry about a press conference today. You need to worry about how many voters you got turning out on November 5th.
So, believe it or not, as someone who was in local news for 17 years, 20 actually, if you include radio and television, radio and newspapers, I totally agree with you. The headlines are different if she does a national interview and if she does a local interview, 100%. I guess my question was more, because I don't want this to be about the media. It's about how you reach voters, yeah. Right? And so to that point, I agree with Michael totally. Can I ask you then about tone and some questions about whether Basil, she needs to be aggressive now in these final days? She really needs to go hard.
Well, I think she's gone hard, but what I think she needs to do in this really short period of time is engender trust. And I think by doing that, you have to be able to speak to the future for those voters, particularly the undecided voters. So, yeah, the anger and frustration with that Michael's talking about, that I've talked about, that Democrats seem to be holding on to. I get that, but we need to get over that point. So
let's put them to the side.
No, but I think, I think you're right, because what ends up happening is you want folks to go hard, but at the same time, you also need to get information about how your life is going to be better under her leadership. And she needs to be able to spend the time to actually go and do that. Some of the Donald Trump anger, and sentiment is baked in. This new sort of conversation about January 6th, thanks to this release, I think resurfaces a lot of that. But even then, it's not about looking backwards. You've got to be able to talk forward in more aspirational tones to get out some of those voters.
So, there's the other people out to reach out, right? And that's the Bruce Springsteens of the world, right? It wasn't by coincidence he's sitting in a diner and he's a little American flag there and he looks very Bruce. And, but for a low engagement voter, Michael, is that where, again, we keep talking about how small the margins are here.
Yeah.
Does that make somebody maybe sit up and think, maybe I will vote after all? I mean, not because Bruce Springsteen said it, but it reminded them that something was going on. It's hard for people who watch this program, people I hang out with in New York and even in my family, because they, of course, have to watch me. It's like, genetically engineered that way. That there are people out there who aren't thinking about this every day.
Right. Thank you. And you're not going to get them necessarily through a 60-minute interview. Where you're going to get them is in very small local spaces where they're getting information directly from a neighbor, a friend, a colleague. They're seeing something, an ad that's on their laptop. They're hearing something in their group chat. So there are a lot of different ways in which campaigns can get their message to people. And we've been in an asymmetrical space since 2016. And I still see people trying to force these campaigns into these straight line operations. And that's just not the way it's done. The ad buys today aren't on necessarily just on television. In fact, they aren't just on television. And so they really go to the heart of what you're saying about that local market, that Bruce Springsteen kind of voter. I've got a piece up on MSNBC Daily talking about what I call intentional voters. And these are people who have the intent to vote, right? And when you ask them in a polling, yeah, I may vote or I may not vote. And if I did vote, I'm thinking about this person. Well, now guess what? This is the period when all that comes together for them. And little moments like you just showed with a figure like a Bruce Springsteen, an everyday blue collar guy or gal that they're familiar with, helps turn that light bulb a little bit brighter for them. And that's what the campaign is trying to do, because it can't be a straight line. It cannot, because if it's a straight line, you're not going to reach every voter you need to reach, which is why the turnout model for this election is greater and more intensive, because Donald Trump has already corrupted the process. He's already told us that if he doesn't win, it's rigged. And his voters believe that. They've got operatives already on election boards who are planning to disrupt the process. You need to overwhelm the ballot box, not just now, but especially on Election Day, because the argument is, well, we were leading and now we're losing, so the system is rigged. Well, no, you're losing because we got more votes than you did. And that has got to be the end game. And the way you turn out those voters is to reach them where they are. And they're not all sitting in front of the television watching us or watching 60 Minutes or picking up the New York Times. And I think the campaign is astute to that, is doing everything it can to reach those voters where they are and not making them have to work to find her.